What's up YouTube? Capital G here. What you guys are looking at is a Volcanic hero deck that was ran by Lars. I'm probably gonna mispronounce this last name. I believe it's Junginger. Again, I probably butchered it, but this got top 8 at YCS Bochum in Germany, and I saw this on stream, and at first I couldn't really believe it because, you know, he was using reload, but then he had like Shadow Mist on the field, and I was like, what exactly is going on? But you see a player took basically 2 established decks and kind of combined them so that he could have the best of both worlds. Now, it may seem kind of like an odd mix, but I think he wanted to kind of do what Burning Abyss does, in a sense that you want to basically abuse Dark Law, because this is probably a top 5 anti-meta monster in the game. Like, I would put him maybe just a hair below Ophion. Like, those two would pretty much be at the top of the food chain. But you want to be able to like use Ophion to destroy decks like Necros and Tellarknights while not fully having to commit to the hero deck, not having to invest in Bubblemans and Neos Alias and some of the things that that deck may suffer with, but you still leave yourself enough room to pretty much run another deck. Now, you do have to make some adjustments. Like, you can't run the full Volcanic engine. You see, obviously he had to cut Royal Guard to 1 because it's pretty much not a card that he would ever really want to open with, especially if he opened with like Monk and Shadow Mist. It would create like crazy awkward hands. But he also had to make some adjustments to kind of fit in things like a Hero Lives. Like, you see, he tried to minimize some of his conflicts. Volcanics generally love Ring of Destruction. That is a card where they're just like, oh my god, thank god that card came back. Like, it gives us a huge edge because we're already playing a deck that can burn your opponent multiple times with Scatter Shot. So if you're burning your opponent for 15-15 and then you get maybe 1 or 2 attacks with Volcanic Rocket, a Ring can pretty much end the game. But in this deck, you can't really use Ring because a Hero Lives cuts your life points in half. So you ring yourself, or you ring, and you know, you might literally be in a position where you're 1 attack away from losing the game. And I assume that that's probably the same reason why he didn't use Solemn Warning, is too much of a conflict with a Hero Lives. Like, you may end up playing a Hero Lives twice in a duel, and then Warning would not be potentially live. Or, I mean, even if you played it once and then you took a big attack from like a Valkyrus, then Warning could not be potentially live. So let's go over the deck really quickly. You see, he starts off with the Volcanic engine, and for him, that's 3 Rocket, 3 Scatter Shot, 3 Shell, and 1 Royal Guard. And then he has the small hero engine, and half of this hero engine is kind of like part of the Volcanic engine too. I'm talking about 3 Shadow Mist and double Monk. Obviously, Monk is one of the cards where it works in both decks, so it made sense that he was going to run it. Opening up, he can obviously look at his hand, see how many defensive cards he has, say, you know, I want to go for Rocket this turn, or I want to go for Shadow Mist, set up my Dark Law plays. And I guess it also depends on what he's playing against. If he's playing against an anti-meta deck, one that may not be affected by Dark Law that much, like let's say he's playing against a Rogue Evil Swarm matchup, he's probably not going to go for Dark Law. He's probably going to want to get Rocket, get the reload, set up for a Scatter Shot play. But if he's going against Necros, then I mean, you give Dark Law the green light. He has double Maxi. I love Maxi in the main deck. I have nothing bad to say about that. If I had to go Maxi or Veiler, in this deck where I can use defensive cards from the graveyard in Scattershot, I'd probably go Maxi, try and draw more cards so I can potentially draw my my Scatter Shots so that I can use them and whatnot. He has 3 reloads, obviously. You can't play Volcanics without 3 of those. 3 Fiendish Chain. This, again, is pretty much staple in Volcanics and in Heroes. 3 Mind Crush, anti-meta card of the format. 2 Call of the Haunted. I would assume that that's mainly for Shadow Mist, but then you can also Call of the Haunted or Volcanic Rocket. You get yourself a legitimate 1900 beater, and you get another copy of Reload. And then the Vanity's Emptiness, that's going to be staple in both Heroes and Volcanics. He has 3 Hero Lives, 3 Mass Change, and honestly, like, you may think that this is too much considering he only has 3 targets. Oh my goodness. Watch the feature match. I think it was round 11. The dude did work, and the reason why he can get away with this is because generally he was like doing near OTKs. Like, he was doing really big pushes. He would go like Mass Change to Shadow Mist, you know, get out a Dark Law, search another Mass Change, and then attack with the Dark Law, and then Mass Change that into an Anki, and, you know, like, that's a ton of damage. Maybe after that, if you scattershot your opponent, you might be able to close them out. Like, that could literally just be the end of the game. 3 copies of Magic Planner. He has 9 targets, I believe. He's got the Double Claw, the Haunted, the Phoenix Chains, the Vanities, and the Reloads. And actually, I'm going to talk a little more about that in a second. 1 copy of Regeki, pretty much played in every deck, and 1 Pot of Duality. Now, I think I probably would have dropped the Duality for a Book of Moon, just because I feel like it gives you a better chance. It just gives you another great ace defensive card when you have Dark Law, because against deck like Necroz, usually they'll try and have to 101, or Castel, you have that Book of Moon, you just completely destroy them. And I feel like, you know, he has I think 5 ways of special summoning turn 1 with the 3 hero lives and the 3 monk, or the 2 monks. So, you know, there's a decent chance that he can open with a card that he really wants to use turn 1 that's a special summon. So, you know, the Volcanic side says, yeah, play Pot of Duality, but the hero side says, no, we don't really need it. So, I mean, I probably just would have dropped it for Book of Moon. And dropping it for Book of Moon specifically would have meant that you still had the same amount of spells for Summoner Monk, because I was thinking maybe you could have dropped it for like a Bubble Man to have another option for hero lives, or another option for Monk, and a card to search. But then I was like, that reduces your spell count, so I don't really know if you want to do that. Moving on to his side deck, he has 2 non-fusion areas, 2 Shadow Mirror, and 2 Light Mirror. Let's start with these 2 right here. So I was looking at non-fusion area and Shadow Mist, or excuse me, Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, and I was like, he has to be kind of careful with these cards, because while they can just destroy Shadows, and this one can put in work against the Burning Abyss matchup, it does obviously hurt his deck. Shadow Imprisoning Mirror literally turns off his Shadow Mist, and it stops Monk from being able to activate. And then with non-fusion area, it really does, stop his Mass Change plays. So, and if he's already searched Mass Change, he could have cards sitting in his hand that are dead. But here's where I thought about it, and I was watching him explain it, and it actually made a little bit of sense. He is running 3 Magic Planner. So what he could do is he could wait for his opponent to use that L fusion or that Shadow fusion. He could flip over the non-fusion area. He could lock them out of their fusion. And then during his turn, he could easily Magic Planner, draw a couple of cards, and then use his cards. The same thing goes against Burning Abyss and using something like Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. He could just lock out their Tour Guide. And then during his turn, he could be like, okay, I'm on a Magic Planner. Now I'm going to summon Monk, and I'm going to activate the effect, and I'm just going to make Abyss Dweller and just kick your chest in. So it makes sense that he can run these cards, even though they hurt his deck, because he does have 3 ways of easily turning the card off, and he gets to draw cards as well. Magic Cylinder, because again, this deck is like, you know, somewhat of a burn deck, and if you ever go in time, there's just a huge card that does a lot of damage. 1 mistake, I assume, for Necroz, probably Sir Tellarknights as well. Bottomless. He said he would bring this in against Cleafort. Fairy Wind, probably the same thing. MSTs, Royal Decree decks, and probably more for the Cleafort matchup too. He has another copy of Maxi and a Veiler. You can pretty much bring those in against anything. Like, those are just versatile cards you can bring in. And then his side deck ends with a Spell Canceller. Obviously it's against Necroz. I'm trying to wonder how you summon this thing other than a hero lives. Like, is there a good way of getting this on the field turn 1? Like, I would imagine if you want to tribute, it's pretty much gonna have to be off of like a hero lives, or maybe like a turn 2 Call of the Haunted play, something like that, because otherwise, I don't really see it getting on the field that easily. It's not like he's running, you know, Monarch Stormforth or anything like that. To the extra deck, he's got 3 Dark Laws, one of the best cards in Yu-Gi-Oh!, 2 Ankis. He has a Digustal Emerald, a Castel, Lavalval Chain, a Luminescent Knight, a Diamond Direwolf, Gaga Cowboy, Abyss Dweller, Ragnar Zero. Don't ever take this card out of your extra deck. Way too good. 101 and Exiton Knight. So this is definitely one of the more creative decks that we've seen in a very long time, but I think it is really just the concept of taking 2 decks that are both like really good, that are close to tier 1, kind of sacrificing a little bit of each so that you can get the benefit of both decks. Because even with just 3 Shadow Mist and just kind of like a 9-card hero engine, now he was dropping Dark Law like consistently, and if you watch the feature match, you'll see that Mass Change was really getting it the fuck in, despite the fact that he really didn't have like but 2 monsters to summon with it. So let me know what you guys think. One of the more creative decks we've seen in a long time. Thank you guys for watching as always. Subscribing makes life happy.